Okay, let's move on and talk about Just Stop Oil. So, they are apparently themselves planning to stop. The Environmental Direct Action Group is responsible for holding up the traffic on the M25, dressed in high-vis orange vests and throwing soup and orange paint at priceless paintings, albeit ones covered by glass, throwing paint at ancient monuments, etc., all in the cause of stopping new oil and gas exploration in the UK. They now say they plan to hang up the high-vis. The group have released a statement saying Just Stop Oil's initial demand to end new oil and gas is now government policy, making us one of the most successful civil resistance campaigns in recent history. We've kept over 4.4 billion barrels of oil in the ground, and the courts have ruled new oil and gas licences unlawful. They're referring there to a Supreme Court ruling in January that paused further exploration of the Rosebank and Jackdaw oil fields in the North Sea. The government is considering its next steps on the issue. It's also planning to consult on the question of ending new licences for oil and gas drilling. With the Energy Secretary Ed Miliband's commitment to a net zero future, it seems as though Just Stop Oil can say everything they wanted has happened. But they're a bit cryptic about their next steps. While they say they're moving from soup on Van Goghs, cornstarch on Stonehenge and slow marching in the streets, they also said Just Stop Oil will continue to tell the truth in the courts, speak out for our political prisoners and call out the UK's oppressive anti-protest laws. And of course, that is partly because they have their own members in prison, including their founder, Roger Hallam, who also founded Extinction Rebellion and Insulate Britain. And they're serving sentences, those guys, of between 2 and 4 years. So what do you think? Are they right to stop? And are they right to say we're stopping because we've done it, job done? I had heard a rumour they were going on to protest against Tesla, which will be interesting. Vine at bbc.co.uk is the email, and text us 88291. Going to speak to Mike Parry in a moment, broadcaster who's not a fan. But first, Jill Taverner, spokesperson. Did I get that right? You've sort of got as much as you think you could get from these protests.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on. Partially right. We think that the campaign that we ran for the last 2.5 to 3 years has been effective. And yes, we played a very significant part in keeping those 4.4 billion barrels of oil in the ground, with the government agreeing, well, Labour putting it in their manifesto and therefore having to agree that they would end new oil and gas licensing. And that was our original campaign, our original ask. So we're pleased with that. And similarly, we've moved on, and later actions we called for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, which is hard to say, and that has gained traction. We've had more every time we had an action that gained mentions, but of course it isn't job done. You know, look at the world as it is now. So we need to stop and think, because we're just ordinary people doing the very best we can and doing what we hope and think will be effective. And what we realise now is, you know, climate stability is collapsing faster than the scientists' worst predictions. We've got, you know, ultimately politics and media and the judiciary aren't up to dealing with the extreme situation we face. As a result, people are pushed to believe the lies of really far-right movements. So everything is looking pretty grim. So we've had an effective campaign. But, you know, all of this is beyond a campaign of people who want to stop oil and gas. So we need to stop and think, just as I think, to be fair, so do you, Jeremy, so does every listener. What on earth can we do to resist the power, the corrupt power, and the way that wealth is being used by these huge corporations against us all, against all.
Let's bring in Mike Parry, because he's sitting there very patiently. He thinks your campaigns and protests have been entirely counterproductive, I gather, Mike.
Well, look, Jill talks a very good story, but the reason why Just Stop Oil have given up is obvious. They've been beaten. They've been roundly beaten. They know the game is up. They know that their ludicrous policies to try and stop oil from oiling the wheels of the world is never going to work. And I'll give you the examples. BP and Shell have suddenly reversed their green policies, slashed them by more than 60 and 70%, and are going back to drilling oil out of the ground. At the COP29, the Azerbaijan oil minister said oil is a gift from God. The Saudis have made it clear they're going to drill oil for the next 50 years. Donald Trump says drill, baby, drill. And the worst thing that Just Stop Oil have ignored all this time is the way that their policies have contributed to pushing up the price of electricity and gas in this country to the highest in the Western world, aided by Ed Miliband, right? And it's a disaster. They know it's a disaster. They know that nobody in the public supports them. They've therefore given up.
So, Jill, what do you think of that? Because there is an argument that everything you did just turned people off your cause.
Look, if we were counterproductive and if we were turning people off resisting oil and gas, the powers that be wouldn't be changing our laws. They wouldn't be having oil and gas lobbyists like Lord Walney influencing our sentencing. They wouldn't put us in prison if we weren't a threat to the oil and gas companies. And a gentleman who just spoke.
Oh, come off it. For goodness sake, you broke the law.
Excuse me.
Broke the law.
Let me carry on.
Well, I mean, he did want to point out you broke the law.
These laws, yes, we broke the law and we take the consequences. But, you know, Martin Luther King broke the law and was in prison 47 times. Sometimes you've just got, it's about what's right and what's wrong.
Mike, that's fair, isn't it? Breaking the law is trivial compared to the end of the planet.
Well, if it was the end of the planet, but of course it's not. Jill, I've said this before and I'll say it again.
Now, of course,
No. But listen, Jill, if you're that brave, please go to China, go to Tiananmen Square and start protesting there against the country that pumps out 40% of all the damage to the atmosphere. But you don't do it because you know you'd get arrested. You do it in this country because we're very tolerant of people like you.
Let her answer.
Can I just say, we do what we can. We're ordinary people. I can hear a huge anger in your voice, and you seem to be you're listing all the terrible things that are happening, and you're angry with people who are trying to resist that. Why don't you turn the anger on the people who are causing the problem? The corporations who are chucking sewage into our rivers.
Well, he doesn't. If you stick on oil, just stay on oil.
What's that going to do with it?
He doesn't see there's a problem, Jill.
It's the same pattern. The corporations where money is coming before, you know, so basically our politics, our judiciary, and even our media is owned and manipulated by things like the oil companies.
What a load of nonsense. Honestly, Jill, you are contributing to the highest energy prices in the world. So go and tell that to the mum who's got to cook her dinner on a gas stove for her 4 children. She can hardly afford it because of the policies which you endorse.
Mike, hang on, Mike. What about that, Jill? The idea that your protests, if they stop us using oil, will make heating our homes more expensive and people will die?
Heating our homes is getting more expensive. That's due to the cost of oil and gas on the international markets.
Oh, what nonsense.
You know, can I just tell you something else? Oh, stop saying I'm talking rubbish. Please
he might be angry for good reasons. I don't know.
Listen, in 2016, the UK subsidised the fossil fuel industry by $47,000 million. That went up. We vowed not to do it anymore. 2023, $57,000 million. Well, that's taxpayers' money. I don't know, maybe your listeners think that's a good spending of our money. Why don't we use that to subsidise green energy? We don't. We use it to subsidise the fossil fuel industry. And someone like the gentleman I'm having the pleasure of talking to is suggesting that everything's fine. Let's just carry on as we are. You know, the alternative, the illusion that we can carry on as we are and everything's going to be fine is nonsense. We can't do that.
Mike, in the end, the science, whatever Trump says, Mike, the science says that we are overheating the planet and we're going to pay a price. And you and I can't deny that we're not scientists, right?
I know, but I also have a theory about global warming. It's cyclical. It's been going on for 10,000 years and 10,000 years. It happens all the time. What I'd like to say to Jill, we could halve the cost of energy in this country if we started fracking at an enormous field in Cambridgeshire where we get gas out the ground, right, and it does not endanger the environment in any way at all.
What about that, Jill, as an idea? We could frack ourselves to death. That would be a better way of doing it.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I mean, this isn't balanced. You got some furious person spouting a load of rubbish, you know, saying there isn't climate science.
I'm speaking for the people.
Cyclical. I'm sorry. The science is sound. We are in trouble. We're seeing it all around us now. It's not just the future. We are seeing the collapse of climate stability on which the world's agriculture depends, on which our food security depends. When you've got a stable agriculture, you can develop a nice society, as we've had the pleasure of doing. But now what we've been doing with fossil fuels is putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, warming the planet, and that creates climate instability. That creates extreme weather events.
And breaking the law, just to go back to to the big issue here, which is that people got upset when you broke the law. You delayed traffic. You unbelievably
Absolutely.
threw soup at
Can I just
paintings.
say-
What was
Stop
the
people
point?
getting to hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you regret that, Jill? That law breaking?
I regret that it's necessary.
No. That's not my question. Come on.
No.
You don't
My
regret it?
answer is no. We do not regret
Okay.
anything we've done because we know why we're doing it. It hasn't changed our morals. The fact that we've had to take the consequences, we know the consequences when we take it. So no, we don't regret it. What
And are
is
you
regret-
moving on to protest against Tesla?
No,
That's the rumour I heard this morning.
There are people out there protecting against Tesla. Personally, yeah, sure, call out Musk on stuff, but let's keep protesting against oil and gas because that's what putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That's what Just Stop Oil's about. Of
Thank
course,
you.
we don't like Musk and we don't like Tesla, but that's pretty
Thanks so
much
much. Thank you. Jill Taverner, spokesperson for Just Stop Oil, who are going to stop the civil disruption. Mike Parry, broadcaster, who was cross, actually, I think, about the Just Stop Oil campaign, which he doesn't think we need and isn't right. Sean is in Bournemouth. Just Stop Oil. What do you think?
Well, for a start, they're hypocrites because how do they get to these places that they're meant to be demonstrating at? They use buses, diesel, cars, petrol, diesel, electric cars. Don't get me started on that because they're not green. So how can they say, all this oil, blah, 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 and they use all the vehicles and everything to get from A to B?
All right,
And they
Malachi's
also
back.
stop people getting to work.
Malachi, what do you make of that? They're hypocrites because they drive to places.
No, I think, to be honest, that the system's rigged against us, isn't it? And I think very often people forget about the inconvenience caused by the suffragettes or the civil rights movements of the 60s or 70s that obtained equal rights for brown, black and queer people. They're quick to complain, but they're never quick to complain about the benefits that they have. And let's just remember that organisations like Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion are fighting for the ecosystem that all life on Earth depends on.
Yeah, you see, that's the
All
thing,
right.
Sean. If they're right, if that we need to change or we die, Sean, this business about, they drove to a protest is going to sound completely trivial, isn't it?
Well, why are they keeping on about it then?
Well,
They stand in front of people, stopping them getting to work, which obviously they're not getting paid. All this sort of stuff. So how on earth can they turn around and say all this?
go on,
they're
Malachi.
hypocrites.
Go on.
Well, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So clearly, if the protests that people have been doing previously haven't worked, they need to change their tactic. Now, I live just outside of Bristol, and I was very sadly a case where someone died, and the child of that person didn't get to see them because Extinction Rebellion had camped out on a bridge. That is terrible. And if I was in that situation, I would be heartbroken.
But
But let's not
predictable as well.
forget about the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that die annually across the planet as a direct consequence of global warming. So everybody's life on this planet is important to somebody, is it not?
How about that, Sean? Essentially, it's
You know what?
perspective and proportion.
It amazes me how they can say stuff like this when the guy that was on previously said, you go to a different country and you demonstrate over there that actually gives more pollutant, you wouldn't stand a chance. You'd be arrested and God knows what. Over here, they're so soft that they know they'll get away with it.